Right, everybody, back again. So this time I'm here to talk about tackling challenging behaviour in PE. Most of my career was spent in teaching in areas of high deprivation with some serious behaviour issues, huge schools, so I'm quite experienced in it. Lots of different sorts of behaviour and lots of different techniques used to try and manage it and tackle it. So hopefully you'll take something interesting away today. Lots of time for discussions, questions, opportunities to share ideas. It's really good to share ideas if you teach different areas, because you'll have had really different experiences. So we will look at defining challenging behaviour. We all talk about it, but do we actually know what it is? We will look at understanding why a learner might demonstrate challenging behaviour, looking at techniques for tackling this behaviour, some ideas that we've had, and then hopefully plenty of questions at the end or sharing of ideas. So let's get started. So what is challenging behaviour? Challenging behaviour interferes with children's learning, development and success at play, affecting not only the disruptive child but also the other children. It's harmful to and threatens the safety of the child and the other children or even the adults. It interferes with teachers' ability to teach and all of the children's opportunities to learn, and it puts children at high risk for later social problems or school failure. So it could be just one of the above, or it could be a mix of all of them. But I think something that we need to consider is that last point where you think actually it's not just about now, you need to look ahead as well. And if some of these issues and some of these behaviour experiences come out now, are we setting them up for a successful life in 20, 30 years time? So it's making sure that we kind of tackle things now to help them cope as successful adults. So what would you class as challenging behaviour in PE? There are three main levels really of sort of disruptive behaviour. There's the mild level, which is things like talking, not paying attention, distracting others. Then there's the moderate level, not following rules, talking back, losing a temper. And then there's severe, which is more things along the lines of hurting others, damaging property, or aggressive shouting. Obviously, there's other things that come into play in there, and everyone has different thresholds of unacceptable or acceptable behaviour. My personal bugbear is when children are talking when I'm talking, especially when I'm giving an instruction. I'm like a bat. I can hear it the second they start doing it, and it really is something that I will not stand for. What are your personal bugbears when it comes to behaviour in PE? Just put it in the chat box. Everyone has different ones. I know that children bouncing balls when they should be holding them still is something that really gets people. So let me know what your little bugbear is. Oh yes, getting into teams before you ask. Oh yeah, when they or when you're going along giving numbers and they start moving to try and get in the order to go with their friends. Absolutely. Messing with equipment. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I've lost my little scrolly thing. There we go. Not listening to the instructions and then saying they don't know what to do. Yes, definitely. Talking over you. Kicking basketballs. Oh, that is such a good one. Kicking netballs or basketballs. That's something that really annoys me, actually. That's a really good one. You just have to explain to them, you're just ruining the balls, what are you doing? Yeah, that's a great one. So it's interesting because actually we've all got really different ones there, things that just really annoy us. But actually, if we made a full list, I bet they annoy us. I bet all of them do. But yeah, I do like the kicking basketballs one. That's a great one. Okay. So, little scenario then. So today, so you woke up this morning, you didn't have time for breakfast, you argued with a family member, then your car wouldn't start, then you got caught in traffic and you've arrived late at school. What sort of impact would this have on your day? So I know I would feel really tense, really stressed before I even got there. And then I would probably be really short-tempered with the children, have a much shorter fuse, more likely to raise my voice, and probably more likely to cry. So if this happened to you, what impact would this have on your day? You might be a crier as well. If you are, we are united. anything like that that might have happened before you even get to school. As an adult, how would that impact your day? Just have a little write in the chat box for me. Furious, love it. Road rage, yeah, big one. Less patience, definitely. And that's really, really difficult as a teacher when you've lost your patience with the children. You're not on a good one for the day. Bad mood all day, definitely. And probably stressing about sorting your car out or whatever else it is that's going on. Turn into a sergeant major and shout a lot. Excellent. Make me feel rubbish, anxious and tense, snappy and irritated. Exactly. And it would definitely impact the way you're delivering and the way you're teaching, how you're speaking to the other staff members, how you're feeling inside. Really not a good start to the day. And just even if just one of those things happened, it would have a knock-on impact for the rest of the day. My arrows don't like to work today. There we go. So why might a learner demonstrate challenging behaviours? So we know all of those things would impact on our day. There's lots of different things that would impact on a child's day as well. So it could be, in PE specifically, it could be a lack of confidence, maybe in their skills. They might have other home issues going on. They might not be able to properly access the session because of any SEND reasons, or any other additional needs, such as behaviour, or anything like that. Might not have their kit. They just don't like PE. That's another reason as to why they might show challenging behaviour. They might have a poor relationship with the deliverer, whether that's the teacher, the coach, an external specialist, teaching assistant. They might not get on with them. They might have a lack of self-esteem. So the changing for PE might be an issue, or they might be self-conscious once wearing their PE kit, or they might just be seeking attention. They might just want attention during the lesson, which is normally linked to some of the other issues that I've listed above, but they might just want your attention. Can you think of any other reasons as to why a learner might show some challenging behaviour in PE? I might have missed something. I probably have. Any other reasons? Yeah, that's good. So an issue that has happened in a previous PE session. Yeah, so they might have been told off in the previous session, or they might not have won, or they might have fallen over and got upset, anything like that. They'll then carry over into the next PE session, which we'll talk about a bit later on actually. But yeah, so they've kind of got a negative connotation with the session itself. That's a really good one. Anybody else? I'm always conscious of giving enough time to let people type. Failure to differentiate appropriately. Yeah, that's really important. So a bit like not being able to access the session, that's not just saved for children that have got additional needs. Actually, it might not have been, the activity itself might not have been differentiated to cater for their skill ability. Great. Oh, I think I just missed one. Issue with another pupil. Oh yes, falling out with a friend, especially if it's straight after lunch and they've had an argument. Definitely. Falling out with peers, don't want to be on the same team as somebody, or especially if you're going in as an external provider and you go in, you put children into teams and they say, I'm not allowed to work with him, I'm not allowed to work with her. Lots of waiting, get bored. Yeah, bored waiting for their turn. That's a really, really good one. Interestingly, a lot of these things that I listed and that you've listed aren't actually necessarily a problem with the pupil. It might be more to do with our delivery, which is something to bear in mind. Okay, so think of a specific child that you teach that is disruptive or is challenging in your PE sessions. What are the reasons why they're showing these behaviours? So I had a little think, and I had a child that I used to teach who was always really disengaged. He wouldn't necessarily disrupt anything, but he would quite often just leave. He would just leave in the middle of a session, just walk out of the room. And I tried to take the time to work out why this was happening, and it turned out that actually he felt like he didn't really have any friends. So every time we got into teams, or every time we had to do something with a partner or anything like that, he was really self-conscious that nobody would choose him to be his partner, and he actually found it easier just to walk out than to put himself out there and be left standing there by himself without a partner or without a team. So that was the reason as to why he was sort of disruptive and just leaving my sessions. So without going into anything that's obviously revealing who these children are, if you've got sort of general reasons that you could say in the chat box, or even just write it down yourself, of a specific child, please don't name them, of why they might be showing this challenging or disruptive behaviour. Yeah, attention seeking, low self-esteem, fear of failure. Yeah, they'd rather not try than fail or lose. Yeah. Things have happened at home, parents splitting up, that kind of thing. Yeah, attention seeking. I personally believe that most behaviour issues are because a child wants attention. Obviously there are other reasons for it that can happen as well, but a lot of the time they are just wanting your attention, and quite a lot of the time, if they know they'll get that for negative reasons, that's why they'll do it. Not engaged with the session. Yeah, I had a child who hated dance, absolutely hated it, and just point blank refused to join in with any dance session that I ever did. So I asked him kind of what movies he watched and that kind of thing, and ended up designing a session around something he was interested in. And I'm not saying it was a miracle cure. He didn't suddenly come on and was doing like Lord of the Dance across the hall or anything like that, but he did join in just because he liked the music and it was something that interested him. But yes, I'm not saying that's a miracle cure. Okay, so just a few things to consider. So a child is still developing their emotional maturity. They need to be shown how to appropriately control their emotions. Don't expect a child to be perfect all the time. They're human too. So just like all those things that would have happened to us in that imaginary scenario that affected us, the same things are happening to children. And if we as adults still know that's impacting on our day and how we're dealing with things, think how that's impacting on a 7-year-old's day and how they're dealing with things. Don't accept poor behaviour, but always consider the reasons behind their behaviour before reacting. That's why it's really important to build relationships with the children, so you understand what's going on, so that you can think, right, why are they behaving like this? I think a lot of the time we expect children just to be robots and just to always be in control of their emotions, never show anything other than a happy emotion. And actually, A, that's impossible. And B, it's actually really important for them to experience other emotions and learn how to deal with them. And it's up to us to help them to deal with them and show them how to do it. So what techniques do you currently employ to tackle challenging behaviour in PE? So you might have a bit of a scale of things that you go through. So you might start with a 2-strike rule. It might end up with the head teacher coming in and removing the child. But there will be different techniques that you currently use to tackle challenging behaviour in PE. If you wouldn't mind just popping them in the chat box, just some of the things that you use that don't always work or might work all the time. Even if it's just yelling might be one of the things that you employ sometimes. Breathing bench, take time to take some breaths, and then when they are ready to join in, they can when they are ready. I think Zoe might have been sneaking a look at some of my later slides. That's excellent, really good. Helping them control their emotions, excellent. Let me just make it a bit bigger, I've lost a couple. From an established good relationship with all pupils, set targets before a session with individuals, so they know what to expect. Children like expectations, they like structure, brilliant. Warnings, traffic light system, use of additional adults. Yeah, great. Children should have warnings unless they're doing something horrifically unsafe, because like I've mentioned in the previous slide, they're learning what's acceptable and what's not. Give them a couple of warnings. Great use of sort of a sanction there. Traffic light system, yeah, some people have things like rain clouds and rainbows, all of those kind of things as well, sort of like behaviour scales. Use of additional adults, yeah, really important in PE. I think sometimes some schools forget that actually PE is really helpful to have another member of staff with you. Share what's going to happen over the course of the topic to hook them in. I used to have it where the kids would say, I'd say, right, we're doing this half term. Are we playing matches? Immediately before they even knew what was going on. But if you let them know you're building up to it, then that's really, really important. Sorry, the office phone is going. Zoe is running to to stop it. I found giving responsibility actually helps, for example, in charge of equipment, rule making, captain. Yeah, really, really good. So giving them things to do can sometimes just distract them immediately from the behaviour that's going on as well. Great, really good. Okay, so let's delve a little bit deeper. So these techniques that we've talked about, are these techniques always effective? Do they always work? Well, of course they don't. Of course they don't always work, but you'll have things that you use that work better or more often than others. How do you know they are effective? So how do you know they've worked? Is the child then just quiet? Well, does that mean they're engaged, or does that mean they've just stopped talking? I've changed that wording, that doesn't make any sense. I should say, what do you do if they don't work? So what happens next? If you've said something or you're doing something, what happens next if that then doesn't work? And where can you look for other ideas? So is it other staff members? Is it ideas on social media? Do you do CPD workshops? Do you read books? What do you do? Everyone has had an experience where they've tried to do something with a child to try and sort behaviour out, and it's not worked. It's common, and it's not going to work every time. Does anyone have something that they think, right, this works every time? Or has anyone got something to share that they've tried and it just absolutely fell on its face, didn't work at all? Be brave and share failures. Failure making them the referee. Oh yes, that is a brave one. Sometimes that can work really well, but other times, especially if the child themselves isn't really confident in the rules, suddenly it just ends up in a full pile on towards this child that's trying to take charge of the game. Excellent, thank you for sharing, Cheryl. That's a really good one. Anyone else? Letting them pick their own teams. So was that a success or was that a failure? Everyone's on tenterhooks waiting to find out how successful this was. I like Henry's in charge of equipment, look round to see a hurdle fly through the air. Great. That sounds like it was an interesting start to the session. Sounds like the schools I've worked in. Great, yeah, really, really good, thank you. Picking the right people. It's really difficult when you go in as an external provider, to making sure you pick the right people. Sometimes you need to ask, if you've got a teacher with you, ask them first. Like, is it a good idea to get them to help? Okay, so it was a fail. Sometimes it can be too resolved around picking friends, or those really good at sport. Yeah, the same people getting picked first time straight away, every single time, or you just get a full group of friends, just all standing together, actually don't work particularly well together when it comes to the sport. Again, as an external provider, I normally say, is there anyone who should work together, or is there anyone who shouldn't work together? That can always help, because sometimes you go into a school, you've never even met the children before. Great, thank you for sharing. I will remember the hurdle for a while. Okay, does anyone have anywhere that they go to for other ideas? Just having a look at the final question. Some people might have, I don't know, some book that they would recommend to other people, or a Twitter page or something like that, where so yeah, TS is a good one for Cheryl. That's what she uses to have a look. That's really good, especially the blogs and things that people write. You can get some really good ideas from them. Staff room's always a good one. Asking other people, what would you do? I'm just waiting because I can hear people in the office typing. So I know something's coming. Speak to the teachers. Yes, yeah, definitely. Ask the teachers, especially like Zoe said, if you're an external member of staff, an external person coming in, ask the staff members, say, does this work? What do you do in class? Like, we always try and make sure we look at schools' behaviour policies and things like that, so that we're coming from the same standing point as everyone else. So the children know they can't mess us around, and we also know what to do if things aren't quite going to plan. I think Adam is writing a full paragraph of advice here, so we're just wait. I'm just waiting to see what oracle he is coming out with, and then I'll move on to the next slide. Google it, absolutely. I should have just done my whole presentation just with that. Just Google it. Yeah, really useful. If you, especially because you can put some really specific things into Google, and it will come up with blogs or all sorts of things that people have written to help. Is yours on its way, Adam? Oh. Oh, okay. He was responding to a private message, so we'll move on. But to all just think.
Sorry, I was explaining that, but I then just realised and remembered that I'm muted. Sorry.
It's such a slick operation here at ProSport. Okay, so I've got a list here of some ideas for tackling challenging behaviour in PE that I have used over the years that normally work. Sometimes there's things that you just think, right, this is just not working, but I'll go through each one and kind of explain them. So the first one is for you to stay calm. So children will reflect what you're putting out. So if you've got really stressed and you're yelling and you're getting louder, they will also get louder. They will also get more stressed. Take a breath. And actually what I used to do was ask the children to take a breath with me. So it sounds really cheesy, but I would say, right, I'm feeling a bit stressed, I need to take a breath. Or you could say, Jamie, I think Jamie needs a little bit of help. Let's all take a breath together. So you're all doing it, and you're all taking a breath in through your nose and then out through your mouth 2 or 3 times. So you all come back down to a bit of a calmer state, and then you will find that as a teacher or a deliverer, you are able to deal with it a little bit better. It also gives you the time, like I said before, to consider the reasons as to why they're being disruptive. There will be a reason. It might not be a reason that you agree with, but there will be a reason for this happening. Number 2, state what you want the child to do, not what you don't want them to do. When you first do this, it's really, really tricky, but it's a bit like if I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant. You are all imagining a pink elephant. So if I say to you, or I say to a child, don't bounce the ball, I can 100% guarantee you are all thinking about bouncing a ball. Whereas if you say, hold the ball still, you are picturing a child holding a ball still, or yourself holding a ball still. You are almost instilling in their brain what you want them to do. You can give them options. So you can say, you can either hold the ball still in your hands or put it on the floor. So they still feel like they've got a bit of a choice as to what they're doing. But again, they're picturing what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. You will find yourself getting it wrong a lot. When we first started doing it, I was doing it all the time, where you'd say it and then you'd say, stop bouncing the ball. Oh, no, wait, hold the ball still. And the children will look at you thinking, I don't know which one you mean. But once you get into the habit of it, it's quite a powerful thing, actually, especially if you give the 2 choices, 2 positive choices, though. So saying you can hold the ball in your hands or put it on the floor, not you can hold the ball or go and sit out. So it's 2 things that you want them to do. Quite tricky, but it does work. Ignore it. So where possible, ignore it. Obviously, if a child's whacking a hurdle across the room, then maybe do something about it. But if you can, ignore it. Don't give it the attention. A lot of the time, like I said before, children are behaving in this certain way to get attention. If you don't give them the attention, they will stop doing it. They might then try something else, and it might escalate, but as they learn that actually they will get attention for you in different ways, which I'll come to in a minute, the negative behaviour or the disruptive behaviour will stop. Things like, so for example, when I'm talking, like I said, I find that really frustrating. So I make sure I say that at the beginning. I'm very clear that I'm not going to stand for it, and I won't ignore that, because it's something that I know really winds me up. But there's other things I can ignore, such as walking to another area of the room or leaving the hall. If a child's sort of dilly-dallying at the end, I can ignore that. That doesn't bother me. So I just leave them to it. If I go back to them and go and ask them to hurry up and move on and blah, 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 they're getting the attention they want. And actually, if you just leave them, they'll follow. If that makes sense. A safe place. So a safe place is a designated space that children can go to calm down. It is not a timeout. You are not sending them to the safe place. So in the hall where I used to teach, just in one of the corners, I had a few cushions, a blanket, I had some books, just in a really, really small space of the hall, because I'm aware that it's not always possible. I was very lucky. I did have a sports hall at my primary school, where the children, if they needed to regulate their emotions and to control their behaviour, they would go and sit in there until, like Zoe put in the chat box, until they feel ready to join back in. So you can say to a child, do you think you need some time in the safe place? What you wouldn't say is, go to the safe place, because it becomes a punishment. You're helping them regulate themselves. So you would think that children will then try and spend all the time in the world in their safe place. That isn't the case. They want to do PE. They genuinely want to come and join in with PE. Like I mentioned in my previous presentation about the early years, children want to be active. They want to be doing things. So you might have children that need to spend a bit more time in the safe place, but they will come back to the session. It's just a place where they can sit, they can do some breaths. You might have some meditation cards in there that the children can use, just to help them calm down. They might need your help. You might need to say to them, would you like me to help you to calm down? And that's where you might talk to them or do the breathing or whatever other techniques you've got with that you've built with that relationship with that child that you know helps them to calm down. For me, it's really, I think it's one of the most important things to have is a place a child can go to feel safe. If you as an adult think, right, if you were feeling really stressed, really sad, angry, you would want to go and take yourself away for a minute. We're just applying the same thing to children. Like I said before, we're trying to show these children how to be successful adults. So it's almost quite easy for us to look back and think, what would we do now? Now we're adults and we know what we need. What would we do for our children? I'll just stop there, just halfway through, in case anyone's got any questions of the first four, because I know I might have said some things there that you might not have heard of before I carry on with the other four. If anyone's just got anything they want to just ask me about any of those. I'll just give a minute or two just in case people are typing. That's fine. I'll see if one pops through as I carry on. Positive reinforcement. So this isn't necessarily just giving a certificate or a sticker to a child that's doing the right thing. This is actually reinforcing for all in the class that doing the right thing is what's just expected. You're not going to get a certificate for sitting with your lips closed. You're not going to get a sticker for putting your hand up when you've got a question. Actually, it's just what's expected. And it works really well if you've got a couple of children that aren't doing the expected behaviour. So, for example, if all the children are sitting down and you've got two children that are chatting at the back, having a bit of a whisper, point out the children that are doing the right thing. But you're not, it's difficult, you're not fully praising them, saying, gold sticker for you. You're just pointing it out. So you're saying, oh, I can see that Millie is sitting with her legs crossed. I can see that James is looking this way. I know that Bobby is listening because his eyes are on me. And eventually you'll see all the children that aren't quite doing the right thing thinking, oh, what my name said, I want my behaviour pointed out. Like I said, you're not fully going over the top with super praise for them actually just sitting and listening, which they should be doing, or holding the ball still, or whatever it is you've asked them to do. But you are pointing out those little behaviours to the children that aren't doing them so that they also kind of get the hint that they should be doing them. Also with that one, what you don't do is then end with a sarcastic comment about a child not doing something. So you wouldn't say, I can see Millie is looking at me. I can see that James has got his legs crossed. What I also can see is that Sam at the back is having a good old conversation. the sarcastic comment or the comment about a child not doing something isn't necessary. It's difficult. Sometimes you want to do it. But actually, because you're pointing out the positive behaviours, the pointing out of the negative behaviour isn't necessary. Change your mindset. This one really worked for me. I had a year 4 class who were absolutely horrendous. We would never get through a session. Sometimes we wouldn't even make it to the hall because the noise level was so loud when they were changing. They couldn't get into a line properly. They were arguing with each other. There were, I would say, double-figure sessions where we didn't actually even get into the hall once. And I just thought, I've tried everything. I've tried counting on or adding on the minutes that we're missing and doing it elsewhere. I've tried using the behaviour policies that we had as a school. I tried everything. And I just thought, nothing's working. I've got 2 more years of these children before they leave. I need to do something about it. And I just decided one day that I would go into the sessions positively. And it sounds ridiculous, but it made a huge difference. I decided to go in thinking, today this session is going to be a success. And just that little switch in my mind, rather than walking in thinking, oh, I've got year 4, I was walking in thinking, right, I've got year 4, what we're going to get done today. It didn't change instantly, because obviously the children to start with were thinking, what's happened to Miss Turner? But it does change as you start going in and thinking, I am going to make this a success. And the children see that actually you're looking forward to having them, and that you're looking forward to seeing what they can do in your sessions, is actually really powerful. I was walking into these poor children looking like I didn't want to teach them. And actually, when I went in looking like I was really looking forward to it, even if inside I was thinking, oh, how is this going to go? It just changed how they saw me. And by the time they were in year 6, we had such a good relationship. The behaviour wasn't 100% sorted. We still had issues. They were still a tricky class. But our relationship between the 2 of us was really, really strong just because of that little mindset change. And you can do it. It doesn't have to be with the whole class. You can do it with an individual child as well. It makes life a bit easier if you're thinking that way. Children pick up on nuances, so they will pick up if you're not wanting to spend any time with them, or you haven't got the time to answer them properly, or all of these kind of things. Change your mindset with how you're dealing with the class or the child, and it's really, really powerful. As mentioned before, adapt your sessions. So think about what will really interest these children. There's a lot of classes in the school that we're in that are quite boy heavy, and a lot of the time, to engage them, especially in topics like dance or gymnastics or those kind of things, actually, if you think about the song that you're doing with them or the focus that you've got for them, pick something they're interested in, they're more likely to join in and you're less likely to have behaviour issues. Some people mentioned in the chat box about being bored or having to wait their turn, or they're not interested. If you make sure you're offering something that they're probably going to be interested in, you're more likely to have them paying attention and less behaviour issues. Finally, always finish with praise. So like somebody said in the chat box, the child will remember the previous session. So a bit like changing my mindset. If you finish it with, we had an absolutely awful lesson today. I can't believe how many times I've had to stop, how many times we've had to sit, how many times. If you finish like that, they will remember that for the next session. If you find something, there will be one thing, at least one thing positive that you can finish on. So you're finishing that session on a high. That's what they will remember coming to the next session. So it might be that you really struggle to think of one thing, but there will be something. Even if you can just pick on one child that's done one thing brilliantly, finish with it. You might say, this session has been a real success for Tom, because I really know he was trying really, really hard with the skills, and I think that's great to see. So you've only pointed out one child, but actually your behaviour is positive at the end of a session. Or you might be able to do the whole class saying something like, I noticed that when I was talking today, everyone was holding their ball still, and that's great. Just a really nice way to finish your session. The children will remember that. Whereas if you finish with a negative or finish with pointing out what they've not done, that's what they'll remember. And a lot of the time, actually, when you talk to adults about their experiences in PE, they will talk to you about how the teacher was with them as opposed to what the sessions were. So it does really, really have an impact. So they're my little top tips. If anyone's got anything else that they've tried that works really well, or any questions about any of the ones that I've shared, or if anyone's got any experiences that they want to share. So at my school that I worked in, we followed a programme called Conscious Discipline, where a lot of these ideas have come from. So the positive choices, the breathing, the safe place, all of those kind of things are conscious discipline principles. If you want to give it a Google, I will write it in the box. But there's lots of others out there. You just have to find what works for your school. But if I was going to say to you, which ones should you definitely try the stating what you want them to do and what you don't want them to do. Makes a huge difference. And I would just try the finishing with praise. You might have a formal thing like a player of the day or a star of the day or something like that, or it might just be just a positive comment that's made at the end. Makes a big difference.